Stop avoiding God. Stop procrastinating. Stop not believing. Stop not trusting him, because you're the very reason why you're not in your overflow. It's because of you. God gave me a word last week, and it was Jonah and the big fish. And when I read the word, I was like, okay, the title was Running Away from God. And I realized Jonah wasn't being obedient. If y'all know the story, he finds himself on a ship by doing the opposite of what God said. And the storm comes, he's swallowed up by a big fish, and he still has to go do what God told him to do in the first place. And I said, okay, God, I'm just going to be honest. I'm tired of dealing or hearing these same words about being obedient. I feel like you give me the same words. But then I got in my car after I got my daughter ready to go to school, and I turned on the first sermon. And of course, the preacher is preaching about Jonah and the big fish. So I'm like, okay, God, you're bringing it back to me for a reason. You need me to unpack this, to understand. It's something in this that you need me to grasp. So that same morning, I needed to make a decision. And I was pondering. Well, I wasn't so much pondering because my sister told me not to ponder, but I was just like, God, I don't know what you want me to do. Not knowing God had gave me the answer in the first place. So I went back to unpack the word, and God gave Jonah instructions to go tell the people in the city, and I don't know how to pronounce the city, but he had told them to go tell them people that he wasn't pleased with what they were doing. And I don't know if Jonah was not, if he didn't believe God was capable, if he didn't believe that God was going to do what he said do. He just didn't want to deal with it. Jonah went the opposite direction. He did what he wanted to do. And he goes and gets on the ship, and God brings a storm. And then he's thrown overboard, and he's swallowed up by a big fish 3 days and 3 nights. He gets spit out by the fish, and he still has to go do what God said do. And when I thought about it, God told me, Cameron, I give y'all opportunity to make a decision. I don't force anything on you all, but I give you the opportunity to make a decision, hoping that you all make the right decision. But the only way that you'll have clarity that you're making the right decision is if you know my voice. You got to know God's voice. And the only way you can decipher what his voice is by having a true relationship with him, by communing with him, by being in his word. The reason you're confused is because you're not talking to him. The reason you're confused is because you're not sitting in his presence. The reason you have no clarity is because you're not doing the work to get it. And we find ourselves turning to what's familiar, what's comfortable, what's what makes sense logical. I don't know how to say that, God, but what makes sense, what we think is possible. We find ourselves turning to that, and then we find ourselves in storms and lack because we weren't even assigned to be in that place in the first place. God didn't send that. Jonah wasn't supposed to be on that ship in the first place. So the reason you're going through is because you're not doing what God said do. And then he has to come get you out of the storm. People talk about when they preach that word, they talk about getting people off your boat. But they don't talk about you being the one needing to get off the ship. You being the one having to get off of it and be placed in isolation to remember that he is God. To remember that you don't have the power to do it alone. You need him. Sometimes he puts you in position to say, can't nobody get you out of this but me. You can't call on nobody but me. Because I am God. And what I say go. And then he rescues you out of it because we delay ourselves from our promise. And we distract ourselves and we avoid actually doing what God says do. But he's such a loving God that he will take us out, isolate us, teach us, and make it work for our good. Because after Jonah was spit out on seashore, he still had to go do what God said do in the first place. One thing about God, his plan is going to get done with or without you. With or without you. And he's such a loving God to even give Jonah a second chance. Sometimes God will put you in position. Jonah didn't know if he was going to survive. He was begging and pleading to God. And sometimes you're in positions like that where you don't know the outcome. But that's when trust, faith, and belief come in. Because Jonah did believe God was God. That's the reason he went out crying to him. Do what God said do. Know his voice. Y'all, I told y'all a week ago, 8 days ago to be exact, that God was going to blow my mind. I said 6 months. He did it in 8 days. This is the beauty of doing what God said do. He blew my mind. That morning, I made a decision. I made a decision that morning, y'all. The same day, 3 things popped up that blew my mind. I didn't even think it was possible. It never happened to me before. Same day, less than 8 hours. 3 things blew my mind, because that's the beauty of listening to God. He's not giving you an assignment to hurt you. He's giving you an assignment to develop you and be a vessel. He's a good father. So if I can encourage you either to build a relationship with God, do what God said do, stop delaying it, stop procrastinating it. Get it done, because it leads to a life of abundance, overflow, beauty, peace. And it just doesn't stop there. Just do what God said do. It's so simple. Living right is peaceful. You're not dealing with all the extra. Just do what God said do. Jonah didn't have to be in that storm. He didn't have to go get swallowed up by a fish. But he was trying to do things his way. So do it God's way. I love y'all with the love of Christ.